Hello and welcome to another episode. Today we're going to be going over food in the colonies. Food was an important topic when discussing colonization and the building of a country. It was a vital part of the economy. Without food, many jobs wouldn't exist. It is also a requirement for humans, but that's not super cool. But what did the early colonists eat? They couldn't drive over to their local Wendy's and grab a burger. So in today's video, we'll be learning about the different foods and how the colonists grew them. So the foods people ate were largely based on where they lived. Certain types of climate, soil acidity, and weather affected what could and could not be grown. In the southern colonies, you could grow virtually anything. The climate and the soil were perfect, and the growing season was all year round. Crops played a huge role in the South's economy for this reason. Colonists generally grew many greens like peas and beans, but they also ate game like squirrels, turkey, deer, and more. The South was abundant in food. Many different fruits could be grown, as well as cash crops such as tobacco and cotton, and those were also pretty much the cornerstone of the South's economy. In the middle colonies, the growing season was long, but not as long as the South, but definitely longer than the North's. They grew lots of wheat, barley, oats, hence the name the breadbasket. They also grew corn and raised livestock. The middle colonies had a little bit of both. They had good soil and good climate, but they had some pretty harsh winters as well. They also relied on trade and fishing to supply the economy. The North had harsher winters and a shorter growing season, so of course they had to find other ways to feed and maintain a healthy economy. They still grew crops such as corn, wheat, beans, pumpkins, etc., but for the most part they were a fishing and trade region. They had many ports and used them wisely, fishing the ocean and sending ships with goods to trade. They also had a strong forestry sector, since large trees grew in the heavily wooded area. It was a good source of jobs and resources. When the colonists arrived in Plymouth, they had a hard time acclimating to the new conditions. Fortunately for them, the Native Americans helped out and taught them how to grow crops. I'm sure you heard about it in your third grade class on Thanksgiving Day, but in November of 1621, the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag had a feast. There, they served some of what we still serve today. They had turkeys, wild of course, deer, bread, corn, and other items. They also served a wide variety of seafood, vegetables, and fruits. Meals throughout the day were mostly like they are now. The colonists ate breakfast, lunch, and dinner around the same time we do. Breakfast was usually porridge or hasty pudding. This was simple to make and didn't require a lot of time and ingredients. If you were really poor though, breakfast was usually just a piece of bread and some beer. Lunch usually consisted of meat, bread, cheese, and beer. It was not too complex and has the main ingredients that are still used in lunches today. And lastly, dinner was usually some kind of stew, often meat stew or a pie, often meat pies. Lots of meat. Beer or water was the common drink throughout the day. Life wasn't easy for the colonists, especially in the winter. Crops couldn't be grown in the winter, so that food had to be saved up. Meats were dried and salted in the north. Sometimes, meat was just packed in the snow outside. It was nature's freezer. But meat wasn't an adequate source of vitamin C. This meant that if the people didn't have some kind of source of vitamin, mainly peasants, they could get scurvy, a dangerous disease that was caused by the lack of vitamin C. I have a video over it if you want to learn more. Colonists also had a choice over drinks. Water was the common go-to, but you had to watch out. If it wasn't kept safe, it could have cholera, a nasty disease that caused severe diarrhea and vomiting, often fatal without immediate treatment. Milk also wasn't very common because cows weren't that common. They were mainly used for meat and hide. The colonists mainly drank beer, cider, mainly apple cider, and whiskey. The most common alcoholic beverage, however, was rum. On an average, a colonist drank 3.7 gallons a year. That's some serious rum. Utensils also weren't that common, so most people just ate with their hands. Quite nasty, considering the fact that most of them rarely, if ever, washed their hands. Foods have obviously changed throughout the years, along with the changing demands, resources, people, and environments. But food has always and will always be a huge part in any country or civilization's success. That's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, make sure to check out my other videos.